friend Brooke has shared on Facebook her positive diagnosis of COVID-19. Brooke, how are you feeling?
For the most part, feeling pretty good in light of the circumstances. Just a lot of anxiety, probably more than anything.
Well, first of all, thanks for taking the time to chat on camera. It's one thing to type some words. It's something else to, put your face in front of a camera and have a conversation with someone. So thank you for that. Let's start right there. So why did you decide to post on Facebook, hey, here's my story? And then we'll get into what your story is. But first, why'd you throw it out there?
I just thought it was really important. I think for the biggest reason that I was so surprised when they called me and told me that it was positive. I did it kind of out of an abundance of caution, but to be honest, I felt really silly. And I think based on the responses that I've gotten, that a lot of people feel silly for thinking that maybe they have this elucid COVID-19. But I just, myself included, I don't think I was taking it very serious and kind of thought, I'm young, I'm healthy, and that this would kind of pass me by and I wouldn't be phased.
It's kind of hard to believe, isn't it? The whole scenario that's unfolding across the country and across the world seems surreal, doesn't it?
Seems very surreal, absolutely.
All right, so let's dive into it. You mentioned that you felt silly for going to get a test. Walk us through your story.
Well, initially I just really felt like I had allergies. A little bit of congestion, a little bit of a sore throat. Out of abundance of caution, I'm self-employed. My industry is by nature, I'm around people. So I started monitoring my temperature every day. And on the third day I started taking my temperature, it spiked to 100.1. And I started noticing a little bit of coughing and some tightness in my chest. And I thought, I should just call my doctor and, see what they say. And they took me through a series of questions, and called me back and basically said, you need to show up at this place at this time and do these things. And, you need to be tested.
That's kind of scary, isn't it? Because a lot of us are dealing with the allergies, the runny nose or the scratchy throat or whatever. It is springtime in Oklahoma, or around springtime in Oklahoma. That's pretty standard operating procedure. But then you see the stories out there of the tightness, this and this, and you're like, okay, I need to get this checked out.
Right. Absolutely.
So you go and have the test.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a simple nose swab. I was in and out in less than a minute. They had a special quarantined area that they did the testing. Somebody came out. I had to wait in my car. They came out in full, um, gear and took me back. I was in and out of the building in under a minute, and they told me they'd have my results back for me in 48 hours.
Did they?
Well, I got one call that said that my initial round of testing, whatever that meant, for upper respiratory infections, came back negative. I did ask the person on the phone, does that mean that it would pretty much be impossible for me to then have the coronavirus if this has all come back negative? And unfortunately, that person did say yes. And that turned out to not be correct, because I got another phone call that said I was positive for COVID-19.
So you knew another call was going to come, but at this point you're thinking, hey, the first test came back in my favor. This second test is just routine or, part of the procedure.
Yeah, that's kind of the way that they made it seem to me. And, I told them about that. I said, I've received another call that said everything's come back negative. I think that maybe they expected me to understand that there was a second round of testing. And of course, everybody makes mistakes and there's a lot of misinformation out there, even amongst the medical community. And unfortunately, the first person who called me just really was under the impression that if all of this first round came back negative, that my second round, I guess, would be negative as well.
So what's next? What are they telling you to do at this point?
There's not a whole lot of information that they give you about what to do. I was contacted by the health department and had to go through day by day history of who I'd come in contact with, give them names and their contact information so that the health department could contact them as well and let them know that they had been in contact with somebody who tested positive and encourage them to quarantine themselves.
Okay, so what's next? What are they telling you at this point? And how are you feeling at this point?
I still have a lot of tightness in my chest, and I kind of go through periods where I feel like my symptoms are a little bit worse than other times. Right now, I'm not really coughing a lot. Um, I've been doing a lot of breathing exercises, so I don't know if that helps or not, but in my head it does. Um, and from now, I'm on day 2 of 14 days at home, along, unfortunately, with a lot of my friends that I did see right before I tested positive.
What are you hearing from them?
So far, nobody seems to be feeling off or bad amongst the people that I've had contact with, but I have had innumerable amount of people private message me asking me about my initial symptoms and telling me how they're feeling, and unfortunately a lot of them sound exactly the way that I was initially feeling, and they're asking me, should I go out, should I stay home? And I've just been telling people and over again, like, yes, stay home unless you just absolutely have to go out, because it's not a great feeling to think about the fact that I was spreading this without knowing, for possibly days before I exhibited any symptoms.
To be clear, you had no way of knowing, and certainly nothing intentional there at all.
Right.
Um, but it does make you it's kind of a scary deal that it can be that transferable, maybe, if that's the word.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and if the symptoms come on for most people or a lot of people, like me in my case, they're so minor. We're sick often, colds and allergies and flu. This starts off so innocent, really, and by the time you really start to feel that tightness in your chest and that fever, um, the the sad truth is that you've probably been carrying it for a few days.
Um, okay, so your timeline is they said, hey, 14 days, you're quarantined, and you're a couple days into that at this point. Anything to monitor?
Mostly monitoring fever and chest pain. It's just like a tightness in the chest. I'm not really sure how else to describe it. I'm not really having any difficulty breathing normally, but tend to get out of breath a little bit quicker than I would typically if I try to take a deep breath. I cough. So that's the biggest issue and the biggest thing I'm monitoring. If that changes at all, they have encouraged me to go to the ER.
Any advice for other people?
Stay home. I mean, take the social distancing really seriously. It's, again, not a great feeling to think about the fact that you've contributed to other people's sickness, whether it's intentional or not. The things that we can do to help people are to stay home as much as possible and use the social distancing so that hopefully we can get our businesses open back up, and people like me who are self-employed, we can go back to work and hopefully get past this.
Brooke, among the comments you left on social media about this journey you're on, you asked people for book recommendations. Anything good? Are you reading anything at this point?
I have gone through, gosh, probably 4 books in the last week or so. So if you're looking for good book recommendations, we will start compiling them on Facebook. So feel free to join in there.
Brooks Reading Club.
That's
All right.
right.
Well, once again, thanks so much for your time, for sharing this story, and I really do hope you get better as quickly as possible.
Thanks so much, Dave.